You're welcome back. This is News Valley's most authoritative news analysis platform, and my guest Kojo Nkrumah, Kojo Pumpuni Asante, Kofi Bento, and John Jinapor. This show is brought to you by MTN. Everywhere you go, Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. Amen Scientific, God is a healer. Is the healer. Duraplus, where Duraplus goes, water flows. And COAFS, your immune booster. We live, we build home for you, and 1xBets fast pay. Now we will go to one part of the president's statement. You will find that he appears to have dedicated some time to the Galamsey fight. And for those of us who have been doing that for a while, we're excited that he gave some sufficient time to deal with the matter. The president says that our lands, forests, and river bodies are being systematically degraded and polluted without any care. And he stresses that we owe it to generations yet unborn to resolve that matter. There are some who say this is the biggest problem now that we need to tackle now. We shouldn't leave the handle on it. People like Lord Amoah, Dr. Lloyd Amoah says this is where government must pay a lot of attention to. So let's hear the president briefly and come to the studio and hear what my guests will say. And we have a different angle to it also. We have been talking about it for a long while, but have we been paying attention to the environmental and health implications of this? There's someone who has been writing about that. He'll share some of his views with us.
The future of our country by Galamsey is grave, and we cannot shirk our responsibilities in dealing with it. I'm appealing to the media coalition not to be daunted by the difficulties in the fight against Galamsey. Government will not weaken its stance and welcomes the continuous support of the media coalition. The Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining has been working hard and has had some successes. Under the auspices of this committee, the Ministry of Local Government has formulated and is implementing the Alternative Livelihood Program in 35 severely affected Galamsey districts across the country. Last year, 500 youth, mainly engaged in illegal mining, were trained and graduated in vocational and technical skills from community development, vocational and technical institutions. They've been provided with startup tools and equipment. An additional 607 youth are currently undergoing similar training, 240 of whom are in the community development institutions, while 367 are attached to master craftsmen through apprenticeship at the community level. In forest reserves has declined. More than 4,000 miners have received training in sustainable mining. The number of individuals dying in collapsed mining tunnels and pits in the few unauthorized locations left has reduced by more than 90%. Operation Vanguard has been particularly effective in helping to restore the order which has permitted the reopening of the famous Obuasi mine of AngloGold Ashanti. The Interministerial Committee, along with Operation Vanguard, were determined to disrupt Galamsey activities by confiscating equipment that were employed in these activities. In this regard, 12,000 Shangfan machines that go on the river and scoop up the riverbed were seized and destroyed on site. Some excavators were also seized, and a number of them have gone missing. The police have arrested and charged some of the alleged culprits, and investigations are ongoing. No one involved will be shielded, no matter what their positions or political colors are.
Right, so that is the president. Let's begin by giving you some different perspective on the subject and get our guest to also comment on the fight so far. On the phone lines from London is Kwame Sapong Esiedu. He's a pharmacist and fellow Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana. He has been writing on the health impact, the environmental and health impact of Galamsey. He speaks of immediate, delayed, and deferred impact. And if you heard the president also, the president talks about what he says. He says, the lure of gold, once it takes hold, drives away all rationality. That is not a Ghanaian characteristic. It is a human characteristic that has been displayed all over the world. Kwame, thank you very much for joining us. Straight away, we have been told about the turbidity levels of the water, and we have seen evidence of all of that. What are the health implications of Galamsey? As many as 12,000 Shamfang machines that are used in these waters, the president says, have been seized and destroyed.
Well, thanks, Samson. There are a number of issues we need to look at. The health consequences can come in threefold. There are the immediate consequences that we all see, the things like malaria going on the rise, skin infections, deaths due to pits collapsing on people, poor sanitary conditions, flare-up of things like cholera and other waterborne diseases. So those are the immediate ones you can see, that their disease burden is made basically up of infectious diseases. But that is the tip of the iceberg, because then there's the delayed consequences, the ones that we are not taking serious cognizance of. And that is the fact that they use a lot of cyanide, they use a lot of mercury, and they use a lot of arsenic in these mining processes. So you have an unreasonable high number of poisoning occurring in such mining areas. But that is not as grievous as what we are doing to the children, especially those within the first 36 months of birth, because arsenic and mercury are known to lower cognitive development of children, which means by virtue, we are delaying their ability to get educated, in the sense that they wouldn't be able to comprehend properly when they get into schools. And if they cannot comprehend properly, then that means they cannot learn. And if you look at it for a child like that, whose farmland has been destroyed, his water body has been destroyed, they have a lower educational burden. Now we are making them destitute from a social mobility standpoint. And more importantly, when mentally they are incapable with many of the activities of daily living. So that is the delayed consequence. Then there are the deferred consequence. That is what I call us signing a check into the future for which price we even don't know. And some of these deferred consequences are like the arsenic and mercury and all that leaching into the water bodies. So if they leach into the water bodies, they are going to pollute the soil. And it's not going to be even in the local area, because water roams onto the water table. Plants are going to pick it up. Animals are going to pick it up. It's going to go into our food supply chain. It's then going to lead to cancers, renal failures, coronary obstructive heart disease, and pulmonary disease, a lot of things. And I'm asking myself, are we thinking about these things? Are we looking at the disease burden change that Galamsey is bringing? And as a country, do we even have the investment in place so that when these things start to hit, we can manage them?
We have to stop them. We don't even have to get there.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying that, are we even looking at the health consequences? Because we don't have to get there. But it's becoming increasingly obvious that we don't even understand that we don't have to get there.
From the president's account, one of the immediate, consequences that you spoke about, falling in the pits, that appears to have been resolved. But what do you think? How do you see the commitment so far?
Well, our commitment has been lackadaisical, to say the least. I mean, we cannot run away from the fact that the water bodies don't look great. But more importantly, the optics, the pictures. We see children playing in these pits and all that. And we have no health and safety regimens to try and prevent these children from going into these places, knowing perfectly well that these things are going to happen. We see these miners doing these things every day without gas masks, without any form of protective equipment. And we don't seem to realize that in those areas, renal failure is on the high. We don't seem to realize that cancers are on the high. So I keep asking myself, are we committed?
Okay. So we are not only in danger of what the Ghana Water has been saying and in fact has been doing. It's not been able to operate some of its lines because of the turbidity of the water. We, in our subsequent discussions of this matter, will try and bring the water resources people in here and the Ghana Water people in here, so they'll give us a lot more of the picture. I didn't look at it from the elaborate manner in which you are looking at. You are saying beyond just the threat that we are likely to import water, we have delayed consequences that will manifest to cost us so much.
Yes. I mean, you have to look at it from this point of view. If you look at places like Russia, if you look at places like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the deferred consequences of the use of the atom bomb and heavy metals are even manifesting today, years after the end of the 1945 Second World War.
Okay.
The same thing is happening in Chernobyl.
All right.
And so we shouldn't look at it. So if we are not thinking that this is the extent of damage, and you see, I have written consistently that with the places like the Second World War, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, this was the world going into a meltdown. In our case, it's us pressing the self-destruct button and trying to destroy ourselves. You ask yourself, haven't we gotten to the point where we can just take our hands off this button so that we all don't get destroyed? You may think that's happening in, say, Western region in some forest or in Ashanti region in some forest. But thanks to things like planting for food and jobs, those foods are going to appear on your table in Accra because you are going to go to Kaneshi Market and you're going to buy plantain that is high in arsenic.
Yeah, that's what makes it very, very scary.
Cancer.
Right. Thank you very much for showing us this. But I've heard you make other comments on the state of the nation. Just briefly on your take on the health area, I've heard you suggest that the president may not be exactly correct about the NHIS success that he talks about. How so?
Samson, I mean, even before the president spoke, if you look at it critically, there were a number of things that came out. The Catholic Bishop Conference came out and said clearly.
Okay. Did I lose Kwame on the line? Okay, unfortunate. We lost Kwame Asiedu Sapong on the line. And when we get him, we'll get him to spend about 2-3 minutes on that issue about the NHIS, because he's also writing quite profusely on that aspect as well. So let me come back to my guest in the studio. Yes, Kofi. So we have been on this for a while, and on this platform, we're going to continue to be at it because we don't think there is an option. So the president mentions figures that gets you a lot more scared. Did you know that as many as 12,000 Shanfan machines, which are the machines used to pollute the water, have been confiscated and burnt?
I didn't know it was 12,000, because imagine 12,000, they will fill a football pitch.
Yes.
I mean, that's
beyond the football
serious.
Pitch.
So again, without going all around the issue, how did they all get in there?
It gives you an idea of the elaborate nature of it.
Yeah. And I always say, look, if you have a problem that does not defy regular, normal human intervention and solution, then if the problem persists, somebody has decided it should persist. So I will continue repeating this point until the job of the district chief executive, who is the head of the district mining committee and the head of the district security committee, is made coterminous with Galamsey. We will not be able to say anyone is serious about this matter. Now, on the specific issue, look, okay, there's a lot of effort, there may be some results, but the problem does not seem to be going away. Now, I think we should start putting some specific effort on preventing the pollution. A point has been made that, in fact, even legal mining can pollute. So the thing about Galamsey is multifaceted, but the first and biggest problem is the pollution they cause. The worst forms of pollution happen on the rivers because the water moves. We all end up drinking it one way or the other. Now, the technical know-how that is required to prevent pollution, and the prevention is one, making sure that the mining operations are supervised in such a way that certain materials are not used. Certain materials are banned. They are not used. And then some materials which are not banned but are used have to be recovered so that they don't pollute the environment. So they have tailings dams, they have plastic sheetings, if you go to the proper places where they mine, where they can recover these things and recycle or do whatever, so prevent them from entering the environment. It is the Minerals Commission that has the technical expertise to deal with these things. The Minerals Commission should, as a matter of course, be at the district level, okay? There's one thing fighting and stopping, but also we should have another aspect of the fight, preventing the pollution.
The president talks about the excavators, and somehow he doesn't give us any numbers. Were you expecting that he would be specific on the numbers? He simply says some excavators were also seized, and a number of them have gone missing. That's all he said.
I was not expecting him to go into numbers because that was very dangerous. It would have been very dangerous. I doubt if anybody knows how many excavators have been seized. I doubt if anybody knows where they are. I doubt if anybody knows who has taken them. The excavator thing has become the heart of the scandal. So I wasn't expecting numbers. It would have been dangerous.
Boate says, while they may not be 500, he says that it's less, and he has reassured that they will find them.
Other people say it's more, and so it's all over the place. But that is also, the excavator issue is the heart of the scandal. It shows the failure and insincerity. So yes, I didn't expect the president to go into numbers, but the truth is, if we can nip this, following the excavator is like following the money. It will help us, track who is doing what. Okay. But my point again is this. We've had a certain outburst and reaction to this Galamsey thing, which is not necessarily bad, but we must appreciate that all durable solutions are based on knowledge and steady action. No matter how well informed you are, an outburst, this emotional reaction does not tend to solve problems in a durable way. I think we are seeing that in the Galamsey fight. I am asking that we start engaging the people paid to do the work, Minerals Commission, more in that area. And the president talked about a lot of effort and touted his achievements. People's reality is different. And what is coming out and what is making the news is really where he's failing. So I think you should give more attention to those areas.
So we may need the specifics. I'll come, and then when I return, Kojo Asante will now also tell us what he thinks about the president's input in this whole discussion. But there are certain facts that have been laid bare about the success rate so far, and I'll also let you know the figures. But Kwame Sedi-Sapong is back. Kwame, in some 2-3 minutes, the NHIS, what's your reality, contrary to what the president had to say?
So Samson, what I was saying is that we need to put these things into context. I've always said that ill health is not just the presence of disease. It's also the absence of health security for a large section of the population. So when you have a population where the large section do not have health security, like either insurance or they can't pay for their health care, that is ill health. And if you look at it, let's put this in context. For 2 years, this country hasn't published its holistic assessment of the health area policy of work, which is a document that has to be published every year. The president comes and says that there are about 12.5 million active users of the NHIS. That puts active use at over 41%. A simple check of the Global Health Security report that was released in October last year, which gives us at that time what our health security index was, says that only 39.3% of us have adequate health care access and cover, which means over 61% do not have it. If you go into the holistic assessment from 2017, which was published in July of 2018, NHI's total utilization was 35.5%. The growth rate is 1.8%. Our population growth rate is 2.2%. Therefore, it cannot be correct that utilization currently is 41%. That is not correct. The truth of the matter is total coverage is about 36-37%, and routine utilization is about 29-30%. What upsets me is that If the government is saying these things, they tend to change, and the politicians know it. Both sides play that game. When they know that the numbers do not add up in terms of percentages, they use global numbers. They say 12 million. 12 million of what? Because what's the numerator and what's the denominator? Because they know that the only way you follow them is percentages, and that is what matters. And like I was saying before, I got cut off. If you look at the number of providers who are saying the government hasn't paid them, and you look at it that even from government hospitals, I've spoken to some chief executives in the last 3 days, they haven't been paid for a whole year. And these are facts.
Yeah, they issued a statement. They issued a statement on the Ghana Medical Association issued a statement on February 21 about complaining about non-payment of health facilities by National Health Insurance, and they are concerned that private health facilities have done services from or about March 2019 to date, and they have not been paid. And this is resulting in some of the providers threatening to withdraw their services to National Health Insurance card holders. That this in any way suggests that the president, didn't have his facts right about what was going on, because we are told that arrears have been settled.
And that is the other context. You see, it is correct that arrears have been settled, but the arrears that were settled were arrears that existed and predated the government. And I have written about 2 weeks ago that what happened was the government paid off the NDC's historic 10 months, arrears, by so doing created a 10 to 14 months arrears of this government themselves. That is what has come back to bite us. So until our politicians sit down and realize that you cannot play politics with the NHIS, the model in itself needs re-looking at to ensure that these arrears not happen. Because the truth of the matter is, if we go into the 2020 election, there will still be arrears. Should the NPP win, fine, they'll carry it on. Should the NDC win, they'll come and tell us that they were historic arrears and they took it over and they paid.
Okay.
But the NDC will then leave their own arrears and will be in this circle forever. So we need to come up, be honest, have all stakeholders sit down, look at the model and ask ourselves simple questions. For example, how come generic drugs are about 30% more expensive in Ghana than they are in the UK where I live?
Okay.
When actual purchasing power parity is 5 times higher in the UK than it's in Ghana.
Okay.
How do you guarantee absence of ill health in such a population?
All right, Kwame.
That's how I'd want to leave it.
Kwame, thank you very much. 4 minutes of you back on the line, very useful. And let's engage to find the answers to the questions that are being asked. And as we interrogate the president's state of the nation, what's your reality? Let your messages keep coming in. I'll be reading quite a good number of them. But, Doc, I was saying that in all of the discussion, it does appear we don't seem to pay attention to the level of success. It's just the bad things that have come up that we focus on. But the level of success is also important to pay attention to. Over almost 2,000 illegal miners have been arrested. That's 1,772. There is 139 Chinese illegal miners deported. You have 2,779 weapons and ammunition seized. You have over 4,000 mining equipment seized. You have 900 excavators tracked. I don't know why they said that instead of talk about exactly seized. By August of 2018, they have seized as many as 600. Then we are told that 300 concessions have been mapped out for commissioning, and 12 outboard motors bought for Operation Vanguard to, as it were, its task force to do their work. You have district committees on illegal mining that have been set up. You have 4,500 miners that have been trained. The president talked about that, and that's to be applauded. They have been trained in sustainable mining operations and community development, vocational training, about 11 set up to help the situation.
This is some of the challenges we have when we are discussing policy outcomes.
Because all that you have told me about inputs and outputs. So I asked myself, at the time that we set up Operation Vanguard or Gallant Stop or the plans to have alternative livelihoods and so on, what really was our KPIs? What were we hoping to do in a year? What were we hoping to do in 2 years? I know that often some of these things are not put in concrete terms. But it always then brings us to a struggle for us to know, are we making progress or we are failing?
Measures of success.
But yeah, some measures of success. So if you say, okay, 2,000 illegal miners have been arrested, okay, that's good because at least you are setting, you know, some, but does it mean that the scale of illegal mining has stopped? Because maybe you're taking 2,000, another 2,000 have come in. You know, so we get, and then when you begin to look at, you know, people having problems with water, so what are we measuring, right? So this is the kind of thing that, yes, the president came in, there was an emergency, you know, certain actions were taken, but we haven't found a way to progressively track, okay, what would we be able to see? And I think the water one was, for me, very symbolic in terms of the turbidities, and people could already pictorially see that, okay, things are changing. But that might be even a wrong way to measure, because as you know, Kwame is saying, you see clear water and you don't know what kind of chemicals that are still in there, right? Maybe the mud has gone, but it is probably more toxic than it was when it was even muddy. So that is the challenge for me. What I liked, at least what the president said, which for me was positive, was even encouraging the media coalition, don't give up the fight. And in this case, we cannot give up the fight because the implications are severe. And the reason why we can't even give up the fight is that the underlying incentives have not changed. Right?
Yeah.
So the fact that with the army going in, the fact that you have all these committees, you have alternative livelihood, it is not stopping anybody.
Yeah. We deployed 400 men by Operation Vanguard.
The first warning we got was Anas's expose, right, on involving the Mr. Charles Bisui issue, which is, you know,
the environment minister recently, Joy News, followed him, and he took us to sites where they had seized machines and drove people away, and they are back.
Yeah, even the media coalition on many occasions put out concerns that there are still issues that are not being addressed. So for me, if we are not going to deal with the underlying issue, which says that the entire local elite in our polity are involved in this galamsey, the chiefs, political actors, you know, youth. There's so many people involved.
Last week, some Chinese were arrested and 15 excavators seized.
They are still coming.
Just this week, 5 people have been arrested, and we are told 3 of them are NDC members and 2 of them are MPP members. And they give us a hint that they are tracing some politicians who are also involved.
This right from the beginning, when we started hearing about Galamsey, these issues were already put on the table. Election year, people are looking to finance their campaigns. So the incentive to even you know, go and try and get this as quickly as possible before it gets hot is there. So when I listened to the president, what I was expecting to hear was not necessarily, I mean, I know that the success or the gains that have been made needed to be put on the table. But it also signaled that we had to do something more. It was not enough the way that it was structured. Hearing Honorable Frimpong Boateng and concerns about even the lifting the ban on small-scale mining, and that very fine line between that and Galamsey, how are you going to deal with that? I expected more from the president in terms of new strategies.
Okay.
So maybe it's too early for them to take a full picture, but we need to go back to the drawing board and ask, how are we going to restrain and make sure, change the incentives for people on the ground, because we are not there.
Go to the drawing board for what? Professor Frimpong Boateng says he's made over 70% success.
How? How? in terms of the excavators that have been seized, that have been stolen. I heard that they are now returning them somewhere. I think if we can't even accept the problem, right? If we can't accept the problem, because what is perverse, right, is that somebody is entrusted with, going to arrest a problem that has implications for the health of our children, for our polity, all of that, and they use that same opportunity to enrich themselves. If it's perverse, you understand? So when you are seeing a problem like that, you know that there's a root cause that we have not dealt with. Now, how do you deal with that? The president said he staked his presidency on it because he understood the kind of drive, the kind of backlash from even his party, because some of his party people are also involved. So how are you going to set an example? If we don't set an example, we're not going to deal with this.
Okay.
So we have to make, I think that is the kind of issues that I want to see.
Right.
It might not be that the president makes a public pronouncement, but also he cannot say he's waiting on the police investigations.
Okay.
Because we want more.
Okay.
And I think for me, that is an area we have to look at very carefully.
Lots of questions to ask. Now John, from what the president says, that the lure of gold, once it takes hold, drives away all rationality. That's human characteristic.
That's true. It's not
You don't think the progress made ought to be acknowledged even before we talk about the excesses that we are talking about? And from Dr. Kojo Kumpunya-Asante, do you think there's a need to re-strategize, not necessarily removing from Professor Frimpong Boateng, who says he's done over 70%, of a good job so far?
It's not just the lure of gold, the lure of power, the lure of money, all those things. When it takes over you, you virtually lose your moral conscience. But there are some people who would never be taken over by the lure of gold. And so that general statement cannot hold forever, and you must subject that to analysis. This is a situation, I don't want to go into the effects of it because we all know, and Doc has done justice to it. Let me commend him. I mean, I would love to have his number from you. I can learn a lot more from him. I'm so impressed with his in-depth analysis.
Yeah, he writes the Think Novate on health issues.
I'm so impressed with the work he's doing.
Okay.
This is a situation where the president says he has put his presidency on the line. What exactly does the president mean by I have put my presidency on the line in respect of achieving success or ending Galamsey? We must understand what the president means by that. That is one. Let's put that up. Two,
Flip the coin.
it means that if he fails...
Without what is going on, where would we have been?
But it's worse now. The situation on the ground tells you it's worse.
Worse even in the midst
Look,
of the call them, if you like, call them little success.
I have listened to I read the speech. The president was very categorical. Samson, this is a typical Shangfang or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
This is how it looks. And I don't know if the cameras can pick.
Yes, the Shangfang.
This is how the Shangfang
There are
looks.
some that are bigger than this.
This is how it looks.
Please zoom the camera on it.
Multiple of these.
There are some that are the Chinese, the ones.
It's just a generator, a generator here.
Right.
With this it. Then this is an excavator.
Right.
This is a typical excavator. These are small machines. The Shangfang, they are small machines. The president can account discreetly to the last minute or the last decade how many they have confiscated. But he cannot account for how many excavators they have confiscated. He cannot. The president cannot. This is the State of the Nation address. The president is accounting to the people of Ghana, the state of the nation. He can account for Shangfang, those little things. But the president cannot account for the number of excavators that have been confiscated. That should tell you there's a problem. The Minister of Lands, I think Asuma Chireme, scored the government 85% success in December 2019. Today, the minister responsible for environment is scoring the government 70%. From 85, one minister, same government, one minister scores government 85%. Another minister, 2 months down the lane, scores government 70%. And this is consistent with the MPP. They like bundling figures, percentages, and throwing it out. So what is the basis for that 70% achievement? And as Doctor said, where is the baseline information? You have destroyed 10,000, 20,000. How many more have gone there? You can be destroying 20 and 40 will be entering there. That's a failure. So these figures our ministers keep bundling around and throwing about, I think they should stop that. And look, the commitment against Galamsey is not achieved through highfalutin, loquacious, flurry languages and speeches. It is achieved with commitment and surrounding yourself and putting the right people on the job. And if those right people are not delivering, you have a duty as a president to fire them.
What's the evidence of non-delivery? The man at the forefront said, I've done over 70% success.
Where is the evidence of that 70%? The evidence on the ground is that
The statistics I read to you are contained in the budget, 2020.
So we know that 600 or 900 excavators now. So why can we say they are less than 600? Fantastic. If you know that we're dealing with 600 excavators and the minister responsible doesn't even know the number, then our budget must be thrown off.
No, the allegation is that 500 went missing. That's what he doesn't know for a fact. But he says
They
it's
don't
less.
even know how many they have confiscated. They don't know. How even that contract was awarded to that gentleman, they cannot even tell us. Whether they even went to procurement and went through the process, they can't even tell us. We have procurement laws. If you are contracting somebody, you must follow the procurement processes. They can't even speak to that. And yet they are quick to award themselves 85% marks and 70% marks. Where is this coming from? The reality on the ground is that we're told that Charles Bisu was exonerated with a so-called police report. Have you seen that report? Has that been made evidence to us? Have we looked at the report?
He's still being pursued by
the special prosecutor.
Yeah.
Whilst the special prosecutor is pursuing
I'm
him,
alerting you that it's not over.
the police is alleged to have cleared him. And he's still at the presidency. The issue of Aisha Wong, such an embarrassment. Does that show a real commitment against the fight towards Galamsey? You arrest this lady and claim that she's the kingpin and that all these Shanfangs, she is behind it. So you are looking at the symptoms. You are not interested in the causal effect and to deal with the root cause of it. That's why you are now having more Chinese coming into the system. In fact, Madam Alima Mahama is on record to have even threatened her own DCs. So for me,
Threaten them over what?
over Galamsey, and said she will report them to the national security.
If they engage in Galamsey,
Yes.
or they are engaged.
I'll read that for you. I'll just go there outside.
So
If I
she's
try to
doing
pull
what
all
Kofi
that.
Bento and Kojo are asking for. That
I tried to pull all
you know,
these things
we should
as I
take the
go on.
DCEs to task.
Now, something you talked about those so-called 5 people that were arrested. That is most unfortunate. And it's nothing but a red herring. Fortunately, that they are tuned into Joy at 6 o'clock p.m. to listen to your news. And I think one of your ladies interviewed the gentleman. He says that they've arrested 5 people. 2 of them NDC. 2 of them MPP. 3 of them NDC. They asked them, are they card-bearing members? He says, no. How do you determine that they are NDC, that they are investigations? What are their names? You can't put them out. You are tracking some MPs. How many are them? You don't know. Are they NDC? Oh, the MPs are NDC, MPP members. Such people ought not to be at post. That is why we are failing.
But is he not simply corroborating the facts as we know?
Look, it's nothing but a deliberate attempt to muddy the waters and to create that impression that it's a political problem.
What should be done differently going forward, you say?
First of all, the president must demonstrate commitment.
By doing what?
By appointing the right people there, holding them responsible, setting KPIs for them, giving them timelines, give them specific targets to achieve, and be honest and truthful with the people of Ghana. That is what we expect the president to do.
Thank you.
That is what will solve the problem.
Thank you. Corruption Watch released a report. And in this report, which when you check from the Minerals Commission and so on, you will find very interesting revelations. Over $30 billion worth of gold, or is it 30 billion cedis rather, worth of gold left the shores of Ghana without any official knowledge, which means no taxes paid. And this was between 2015, 2016, and 2017.
This was between which years?
2015 to 2017.
Proceed.
That tells you it's a deep operation.
Samson, this highfalutin, loquacious, flowery language that John Jinapor has just poured out on this table is a typical example of political posturing that does not get us resolution in the end. In the end, for example, and I'll come to specifics. In the end, for example, oh no, don't worry, John is my friend, so we have a good banter. In the end, for example, he says what he expects that the president will appoint persons literally who are fit for the job and that he will give them KPIs that they will work with. Where are the superly competent people that John Mahama appointed to fight this thing? In these years of 2015, 2016, 2017, I'm coming. I'm coming. I will make myself.
If you have been voted
can I make
for,
my submission?
If
Can
you
I
have
make
been
my
voted
submission?
for,
Can I make
the
my
claim
submission?
is that
Samson,
you are there to do a
you
more
gave him time to
competent
make
job.
his submission. Give me time to make
You'll
my
get the
submission.
time, but I have to ask the
use my
questions.
time the
Go
way
ahead.
I see fit. Let me make my submission.
I'll moderate how you use the time. Sorry, let's go.
I do want me to boycott.
Let's go.
I'm saying that as he's talking about these, overly competent people with some KPIs, and that's what the president must do, show commitment. Why are the overly competent people John Dramani Mahama appointed to fight this? Why are the KPIs that he set up? I'll come to specifics.
That's why we voted him out.
First of all, when you, and I like the years that you gave, which is why I asked for it. When you ask, this corruption watch report even just comes from 2015, 2016, 2017. Indeed, by 2019, early 2019, we had reports from Dubai that suggested that there was a sharp gap between what was being officially exported and what was being imported there. But go back. Actually, the fight against illegal and irresponsible, because there are some who are legal but are irresponsible, irresponsible mining, started from Jerry Rawlings' days. That's when it started. The data is out there.
It's true.
When they started dealing with the phenomena as it was coming on, putting at least boots on the ground and beginning to evolve a framework for tackling it. What has happened over the period? By the time we got to 2016, the minister responsible, the Honorable Mahama Yarga, I'm sure you have had opportunity to read his public commentary on it. Literally threw his hands in the air that it was out of hands, he could not manage it. There's a My Joy Online story. There's a My Joy Online story, and I want to request that you pull it up, and perhaps we'll read it for the benefit of our listeners and our viewers who are here. That's literally what happened. So from 2017, what we started to do was to up the effort at tackling it. Kojo, for example, talks about the fact that maybe we need to change strategy. Respectfully, I disagree. You see, sometimes in a war where you have different battles, you may not necessarily need to change strategy. Sometimes you may just need to intensify some parts of your effort. If you take America and Iraq, etc., at a point they had to go for a search, not because they were changing strategy, but they realized that they needed to push more boots on the ground to contain better some situations. Now, in this particular instance, from 2017, not only have we upped the numbers of troops that are out there between police and military, not only was the Interministerial Secretariat put together to deal with it, but you also saw, first of all, clear effort to clamp down on everything, both legal and illegal. And the KPIs, one of them being the water turbidity levels, the data is coming out gradually for us to begin to examine. I agree, and I think he does a very excellent job. I read a few of his pieces, that it goes beyond just the water turbidity levels. Because, for example, I have with me here data from the Water Resources Commission. I want to encourage you to, like you mentioned, get in touch with them and then examine this data. Take 2015, when these Shamfan machines were now actually getting to their peak. Those were the days when you began to see even foreigners come and do documentaries on gold in Ghana. And you know, Galamsey in Ghana, broadly advertised on Discovery Channel, etc. This is when it was getting to its peak. If you take, let's say, the Pra River, they measure in about 3 places. Take Akim Brenasi, which is in my constituency, for example. The turbidity levels are measured in NTU, and they measure it twice, in the dry season and then in the rainy season. So you find that in February they measure, in October they measure. So, for example, 2015, Akim Brenasi, Pra River, 562 NTU. By the time you put more men on the ground, you were destroying these machines, you were beginning to arrest and deport. You even say that the deportation strategy, we could have gotten a better way around it. No problem. But the results were that by 2019 February, when they were measuring, they were as low as 17 NTU. In October, if you take the October data, Akim Brenasi, October 2015, 381, by October 2019, down to 34. This February, when they measured again, it had gone up to about 32, which then tells you that some of the reports that are coming in are true, that as we have opened the gates for people to go back and do legal and community mining, some persons are taking advantage of it to misbehave. So it is real. Take Daboase, for example, 1,008 NTU in February 2015, now down to 686 in 2019 February, 847 in October 2015, now down to 466. But you will notice, and I'll be honest with you, 2020 February, when they measured, it's picking up again. Because again, as we open the floodgates and said people can go back and do legal and responsible mining, you are beginning to see some persons just get dirty out there. So the KPIs and the data, we now have a clear sense of it. If our good friends have any, they might want to share with us. But you see, this whole fight against illegal and irresponsible small-scale mining, and the president mentions quite clearly that he was supported by a strong coalition, what I call a coalition of the willing, media, vanguard, even citizens, supporting for us to achieve some success in there. What did we do? We were able to literally halt the entire exercise, now begin to regularize people who had licenses to go back, those who were not, or the illegal miners, trained, and now we're giving them community mining concessions to go on. Remember that you can't do community mining in alluvial places. You've got to do them in some of these deep pits that have been made available under the community mining program. 2 new challenges have come up. One being the fact that as people are going back out there, we're beginning to observe or get reports that some persons are just going back into the water bodies. Some persons are just resorting, even those who are legal are resorting to illegal methods. What do we do? What is the superior strategy? What is a more competent strategy here?
Minerals Commission.
These are some of the ideas. And then also, more importantly, you begin to have the force of the state clamp down on these people.
But the question is being asked, is it not telling that the president can't give us the true facts of the excavator situation?
Anybody who reduces the fight against illegal and irresponsible small-scale mining to the president's lack of mention of numbers about excavators, with respect, is missing the big picture. There's a huge challenge. You've just heard a very prominent doctor even outline the short, medium, long-term issues we have to deal with. KPIs we have to all now begin to even expand. That's what Kojo is talking about.
Kofi says he disagrees with you.
Well, but of course he's allowed to disagree.
If that is his right.
You are not managing it. That is his right. That is his right. He's allowed to disagree with it.
You know that.
But you have just heard, for example, Kojo make the point that we need to even broaden the horizon of KPIs that we are measuring. If you say, I'm saying that if you say that your measure of how far we have come on the fight against illegal and irresponsible small-scale minings is equal to the president's lack of mention of a number of excavators, I'm saying that you are missing the big picture. Because the problem is way larger, way bigger than some excavators that the chairman of the committee has said he has difficulty in accounting for, which he didn't go to bed on.
There are fewer than 12,000 excavators.
He didn't go to bed on. We haven't measured, but you see, in my submission so far, and please listen to my point, I haven't said that the success of the fight lies in 12,000 Shamfans that have been destroyed. I haven't said that.
But it's
so if you flip the coin and you say that, therefore, by logic, by not mentioning excavators, that can be accounted for, therefore you are failed. It's laughable. I'm saying that you have a bigger issue to deal with. I'm talking, for example, about water turbidity levels, things we can measure and begin to see the impact on the lives of people. You are having somebody even say that, broaden the horizon, go beyond that. You had a doctor on the line who says, even look at other health parameters. So I'm saying don't reduce it to this one. But let me make my point. Today you have 2 new challenges that have come up. One is people going back to do this. The second is that even the people who are supposed to be involved or supposed to assist in winning this fight, we're having reason to believe that some of them are complicit
Right.
in the retrogression that may have occurred in some specific areas. And by the way, if you look at the water tables that are coming out, you can begin to see where success has been maintained and where there are slippages, and therefore concentrate your efforts. And I'm saying that even for those who are fighting, they are beginning to realize that some of their own people are complicit. Indeed, I'm not afraid to say this. If you talk to our security couples, some of them are worried that you have security persons, military, police, other persons who are supposed to be at the forefront, doubling in illegalities and allowing some of these things.
I've spoken about an Operation Vanguard member, police officer, reporting a military officer who is also a member who has been compromised. And there is supposed to be an investigation ongoing, both on the side of the ministry, of the interministerial committee, and the army doing their own internal, process to discipline that officer if he's found guilty.
So you are making my point.
Yeah.
You have reports of chiefs giving away water bodies or parts of water bodies to people that some persons must, you can do it on this side of it. Totally ridiculous exercises ongoing. You have reports of politicians getting involved. Indeed, yesterday I was watching Adom TV and I commend them for it. They sent a team, I think, to follow one of the task forces that is doing some retrievals. And live on TV, they were broadcasting incidents where excavators that had been seized were back on the field. People who were calling, mentioning names of people that because of this person, release it to me. And that's what the president applauds, that he needs this coalition of the willing, including media, including his task forces. Why did they even have to form a task force? Because at a point they realized that some of the mainstream people who should be fighting were even getting complicit in the scheme of things. Now you recall one very prominent thing, which for me marks a major difference. When this fight started and you openly had people say that, Mr. President, if you say you fight this thing, then we will not vote for you. And the fact that traditionally we've been talking about political will, that people don't have the political will, that's why they always, kowtow in the end. And the president boldly said that, listen, this is something, and you know those words that you just read about generations unborn. Mr. President insisted that be kept in the script. Those are his words. That's how much he believes that if you don't fight this thing, in the next 10, 15 years, we may not even have water to drink here in this republic. But he says that if it means you won't vote for him because he's doing the right thing, you are entitled, with the greatest of respect, to keep your vote. Because he is committed to this. And he has proceeded, his interministerial committee has proceeded that even when they had suspicion that very senior entities within the political establishment were culpable in this, they didn't shield them. They've reported them to the police and have asked that investigation. I'm expecting that all of us will every now and then be calling the police PR and asking them, where are you with this investigation? Why? When Obama comes to Ghana and says we need strong institutions and not strong men, we're all applauding like he says something nobody knows. This is the time for us also now to strengthen these institutions and chase them that, where are you with this investigation? The three people say, if these are specific persons who are involved in it, find them culpable, deal with them. I know my president's commitment, and he says it in the State of the Nation address, the government commitment will not waver. He doesn't
People
care
have
whose
asked
ox
a
is
number of
God.
questions. I have sat here last week, I asked a number of
Please
questions.
ask.
The minister is alleged, not alleged really, he sent a letter to the CID asking them to investigate certain people. And the question I asked was, he had claimed that these people were arrested for their involvement in the illegal mining, and that someone's bank account was being used to contain these monies and diverted for private purposes.
Yeah.
Who did that arrest? And how come the minister is now asking the police to investigate and take action?
Because initially, I think the matter was referred to the Bureau of National Investigation. And I don't know whether it was based on advice or because they were not seeing some traction there. He proceeded to make a report to the police.
Okay.
That they should also now pick up, arrest these persons and get into an investigation. Indeed, it is my understanding that they have even asked the minister himself to provide a basic statement or to provide something they can begin to work. Because one of the questions you're asking, how many excavators are they even looking for? It's a matter that, I mean, if you say you can't account for it, it means you had some baseline, which is not corresponding with what you have now. So that basic data, and to avoid this speculation of 500 or something, be able to provide some basic numbers so that the police can do that. That is why I'm saying that all of us have to keep an eye on that investigation. And
The
challenge.
police did something refreshing
Yeah.
when Horace Ekwawusi's name came in the
Yes.
6 people that they
Yes,
arrested.
yes.
Seeming for the first time, they issued a press release.
Well, it's not the first
to
time
give
they've
us
issued a
to
release.
give us information about the arrest that they had done. And question is, should they be giving us updates? You arrested them, you have given them bail. Where are they now? What is the process
They
to
occasionally
prosecute
should.
them?
They occasionally should. We also should occasionally inquire. Let me tell you something. I'm personally very interested in how this investigation pans out. Because I've seen some mischievous elements on social media deliberately throw my name in that, you know, I am involved in it, or that. Why? Have you mentioned your name? You are not the mischievous element I'm talking about. You take your time. Take your time.
He's been mentioned.
Take
Unless
your
you don't know,
time.
he's been
I've
mentioned.
seen- I've
as
seen-
connecting MPs also
Yes,
to
I've seen some mischievous
where they
elements.
can get excavators.
Some very mischievous elements deliberately throw my name in, that there's a particular video with my name. If anybody has seen this video, please put it out. Then I see another one where they cook up a fake statement attributed to the Member of Parliament for Abrase Mukwabankese, where my mother incidentally hails from, that he says he asked me and I connected, and he's come out to deny it is not true. I'm very interested that they finish this investigation and name the specific persons, because I know that I'm not involved in any such matter. But listen, big picture. Let us stop the attempt to just waver around the corners and score some points on it. And let us focus on the big picture of getting a broader KPI scale, some more effort on the clamp down of those who are doing it, some more education on our collective responsibilities. Because people can be doing this in the background, thinking that they're going to make some buck or two today, not remembering what will happen to the future generations. I have kids. I wonder the kind of water that my kids will drink in the next decade
Bottled
if
water.
this thing goes on.
Bottled water.
So we have to be clear, support the president, support the exercise, and win it. But if you try to go in the political manner, then we'll now also have to, pull up the records.
Okay, and we want to close the chapter on this and move to some other issue. But on the accusations, you find people trying to bring in, all sorts of people in, with a name. For example, this same Eko Ewusi who was arrested mentioned Kwaku Baakun some time ago and Anas as being involved somewhat, and Kwaku sued him. On Thursday's graphic, if you read,
I hear he's apologizing.
he's run away from the court and issued an apology and paid for it and said that he's wrong, that Kwaku Baakun and others may have been involved. But one of the chief campaigners for the team, the media coalition, Ken Ashigbe, is interested in knowing what the KPIs are, at least for the Galam stop. If we're talking about some percentage of success, and some say there's been 100% success.
100%
How
success
come-
of what?
85.
Yes.
That's what the minister said.
Yes.
No, but listen.
How come also that no DC or MCE has been arrested or dismissed while there's galamsey going on in their various places?
So, sometimes I like not to do these discussions in a very political manner. Take this 70% or this 85%. We all watched the video. Journalists around the good professor asking him questions. He says he's been largely successful. My friend Sanders says, put a figure to it. Then he says, 70%. I'm not sure that's a figure that you are really going to pick up as data that we should begin to analyze and work with. I'm telling you, let's be honest with ourselves. When you watch that clip, do you really think that that is data? You see, if we want to do that kind of
It was
conversation...
a rough estimation.
It was a rough estimation. If we want to do that kind of conversation, we can score some points on TV and go. We won't get the thing addressed. Now, I'm telling you, for example, that in terms of KPIs, one of them being this water turbidity levels, even the detail is beginning to show where there is retrogression.
Okay.
Your cameras can pick it up. It's beginning to show where there is retrogression.
Okay.
Now, I would like, for example, that we begin to pay attention to those districts and say, who are the DCs in these districts? How come this is transpired? Then we are narrowing down the fight.
All right.
Not this whole thing about...
And we should avoid
We're not
giving
going anywhere with
energy
it.
to those
So-
who seek to
so,
sensationalize.
as you know,
Thank
we'll
you.
take a break
Thank you.
here.
By mentioning names and dropping names.
We take a break
should
here,
really
and
not
when
really
we
allow
return, we take a break here, and when we return, we will look at a few of the issues that the president raised about corruption and the financial sector too. Many of you are interested in knowing. The president said from Monday, is it 5 billion is going to be available, so all your monies will be paid in full. Those of you who were with the microfinance institutions, including the DKM, those who suffered under DKM. Will that really happen from Monday? We'll be right back.